Hi, guys. I'm back with an amazing guest today. I'm so excited to interview Evita. Evita is from Arizona. And Evita, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Yeah, it's so nice to meet you, Sarah. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to chat with you a little bit more.
Of course. Yeah, me too. So I actually don't know any history about Evita. So let's start from scratch. Do you mind telling us, like your background and have you always lived in Arizona, and then how you got into Pace Morby's group?
Yeah, so absolutely. So I guess taking it back, I am born and raised in Arizona, which is not as common anymore nowadays. Everybody's always surprised of like, oh, you're actually from here? You're not from somewhere else? It's
Right.
like,
Yeah,
so
that is
no.
surprising.
Yeah, so born and raised here. I'm lucky enough to have a good chunk of my family's out here as well. But grew up out here. I initially was doing more of like hospitality for several years. Of course, like
Mhm.
most, you get into a job, and I worked at a gym for a little bit and did some few things, but ended up kind of in that serving, bartending, worked my way up to management, those type of roles. So always been
Yeah.
in events or, bartending, all different stuff. I worked downtown at the stadium, so I got to see a lot of baseball games. I
Oh,
was
fun.
always joked, I'm like, I'm a great worker because I'm not watching the baseball game.
I
But
love
yeah,
it.
I did that for a while. And so then my cousin, he actually joined Sub 2 and Gator. And so I have no idea what these things are, nor did he
Yeah.
tell me that. It was just like he's doing some sort of investment type of thing. And
Mhm.
I'd started asking questions because anybody who knows me knows I ask a lot of questions.
I
And so
love
I
that.
was intrigued, of course, of just learning different ways to build wealth. And I've, of course, like anybody else, I've heard real estate is a good way to do that, but just never really gone much further. And so at one point he was kind of like, well, if you're really interested, check out this guy Pace. And
Mhm.
so, as many of you have, I'm sure, I took a dive down the rabbit hole that is Pace Morby. And now it is my world. So I ended up
Wow.
diving into that. And lucky enough for me, I heard Molly on a podcast. She was talking about all these wonderful things and who would make a great TC. And so I signed up for what is now known as top tier. And
Nice.
now I've just dove all in, and this is my world, and I get to talk to awesome people like you every day, and I absolutely love it. So
That's
yeah,
so
that's how we
cool.
got here.
That's so cool. Well, good. I'm so happy that your
Yeah.
cousin found it and shared it with
Yeah,
you.
me too. I know it's so funny because he's been much busier nowadays he actually has a couple businesses himself. He's a dentist.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so, which is excellent, but it means that time is not, you
Yeah.
know, as abundant as maybe he would like to put towards this stuff. So the joke is he was into it, and then now I'm kind of teaching him. So it's really cool that we get to work together either way.
That's way cool. Yeah, and it's super
Yeah.
helpful too that all your family is in that same area so that, like you said, you're
Yeah,
able to network and help each other.
it is.
So
Yeah.
what time frame are we talking about? Like when did you actually find Pace Morby through your cousin? How long ago?
So I think so all of this would have been last year. And I want to say I checked out a meetup because I didn't even know what meetups were. I was like,
Yeah.
we're going to this thing. It was terrifying, to be honest. The
Yeah.
introvert was full blown. Just like, what is this? Who are these people? What are we doing?
Yeah.
But I want to say that was maybe March or April, somewhere in
Okay.
there. And then a few months down the line, top tier didn't come out, I think, till July. And then I signed it up late August.
Cool.
So
And this is just last year, you said? Oh, wow. Okay. No, this is wonderful. Okay.
yeah.
So tell us about what you heard Molly talking about that piqued your interest, and made you think, hey, I think I could do that.
Yeah, so great question. So I was actually listening to Wholesale Hotline, which is actually a lot of times recorded here in Phoenix with Brent Daniels and Jamil Damji. And so she was being interviewed on this new program she was doing. And I think I found Wholesale Hotline because Pace is on there, but I didn't know, honestly, really who Molly was. It sounds weird
Yeah.
now because I'm
Right.
like, oh my gosh, we love Molly, and we know that she does everything. But yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't really know who she was. I was on there because it was his podcast and that kind of a thing, and just
Yeah.
listening to it in the car. And as she was talking about it, I just remember hearing, I couldn't tell you exactly the full spiel
Yeah.
and whatnot, but some of the things that were appealing is just the job itself, if you will, involved a lot of flexibility. So flexibility, whether it was your pay scale, whether it was your time. And I know they cater a lot to kind of like bring your wife into the business, or if you're a mom and things like that. And ironically enough, I am neither of those at the moment, but still, those are appealing things, right? Of being able to be in control of how much or little you want to make, and just knowing the time commitment that you can reflect that and fit it into just a more flexible lifestyle, of not having to do the 9 to 5 and you carve out that time. So I found that to be really appealing. And then just some of the personality traits that she was sharing that would be fitting for this role. I mean, quite honestly, I'm just listening to it like, check, 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 and I'm going, well, I don't know what this is, but I think I need to check this out, because I'm like, the sub 2 stuff, wasn't quite sure what that was or where I fit. But with this, I'm just going, oh my gosh, I feel like I check all the boxes here. And so it felt worth checking out. And so I tried to kind of keep an eye on when they launched it, and, tried to put myself on the list or whatever they had at the time. And yeah, I really resonated with what she was talking about, and just her energy and excitement for it was really contagious. And so
I love that. I love that. My mind, the question went right on my head. Okay. Oh, you were talking about flexibility.
Yeah.
Oh, darn it. It'll come back to me. But so the next question, I guess, is, as far as, everybody wants to know money. Are you comfortable talking about money?
I can, yeah.
I mean, it doesn't have to be personal, but just like, the flexibility for the lifestyle is there, as you just covered. What would you say, for somebody who's never heard of being a TC before, would be like the hour commitment on the low end and maybe on the high end, and like a range there as far as, if it's a hobby income or if it actually could replace their full-time job? What does that look like?
So I'm going to give my standard answer, which is it depends. And let me explain why I say that. I say it depends because, myself included, I think it's going to fluctuate. I know it's going to fluctuate, to be honest. And I have now worked with, and seen all of the levels. There's people that are doing this part-time and could do really decent. Some are, you're only taking a couple files a month. And I've seen the opposite end, where like, this is full-time, you're running a team, you guys are pumping out, whatever, 50, 60 transactions a month. And I say that I also think another factor is not only how much time are you able to commit, but where are you at experience-wise? Because I think that makes a big difference too. Because I've noticed, for me, I kind of was asking a lot of questions in the beginning too, of trying to figure out, okay, I was kind of, I'm going to say, like in a newbie circle, if you will, all of us are kind of going, we need our first deal, and how do we chase this? And for me, I came in without a real estate background. And so asking around, trying to figure out, okay, what is the tipping point that's setting people apart, that seem to be just kind of appearance wise, walking in and just getting a bunch of deals and making a bunch of money, if you will, and that type of a thing. And I was trying to figure out, how are they doing this? Are we doing something wrong, or what's going on? And I think it really comes down to your foundation and experience. And I say that to say that some of the people that I would interview or speak with, well, they've been maybe in top tier for a couple months, but they were in sub 2 for 3 years prior. They've been an agent for 15 years. So I feel like when you hear that, to me, that says they are going to be able to handle and pick up on a lot more, a lot quicker in a shorter amount of time. Their 2-hour commitment might be different than my 2-hour commitment, trying to learn everything.
Yeah, so that's a great answer.
I think so I say it depends, in that I really do think there is a lot of flexibility in this. I will be honest, depending on where you're starting from and how much you put into this, I don't think it's going to be a get rich quick. I don't think that it's immediate. I just want to be honest with people, it's just not, because even those types of things, that's why I say, like, you come in thinking, man, how did they just do this right away? And the reality is they didn't. It took time. It's taken maybe other transferable skills or experiences that made it appear to be immediate, and also the time and effort you're putting in. And so I think it's definitely one of those things, you get out of it what you're putting into it. Are you going to half watch some stuff and just say you're going to do it and start making $100,000 a month? Probably not. Can you make $100,000 a month? I think it's possible. I mean,
have a team, possible. Right?
Yeah, but again, and same thing. I think that's something to consider too. Is, are you looking at your cap working solo? Yeah. Or are you willing to explore other ideas of JVing or mentoring people or building out a team, because I think that helps to elevate that monetary goal that you may have.
Love it. Such a
Yeah.
good answer. Thank you
Oh,
so
thank
much.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, that was really thorough and it got me excited because it led to more questions for you. So, a side question before I dig into the
Sure.
other one is
Yeah.
did you jump into anything else before you jumped into TC? Like, were you starting to do the sub 2 or the Gator program?
No,
Okay.
I had thought about each of them. I'd watched a couple. They do some, I want to say like kind of a webinar style on Saturdays for the Gator, and I'd watched one or two of those just out of curiosity. But no,
Mhm.
top tier is, I say it's my stepping stone, and like it's like your gateway into real estate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I feel about it too. I'm like, I will be a much better investor in the future, for
Yeah.
myself and for joint venturing with other people, if
Yeah.
I understand really thoroughly the back end of how these
Mhm.
deals are put together and how they work. So
Yes.
I
Yes.
love
That was
that.
my
It's
hope
like the
as well.
foundation.
It's like
Yeah.
understand the background work so then you can go out there and do the thing.
Yeah, love that. Okay, so my other question, which is real more the curiosity of if you can walk us through, okay, you're here as a newbie, you're in a newbie circle, you're analyzing what's the difference of the successful
Mhm.
people versus the ones that aren't doing a lot, and you
Yeah.
realize it comes down to their background and how much they already know. But can you just relive the experience for us? How did you get your first file? And
Yeah.
how did you network yourself? I mean, okay, you got certified. Now what?
Right? I think that's been a journey, to be honest. And I'm like, of course, in hindsight, some things you're like, ooh, that was really good. And others you're going, oh, why'd you waste so much time on that? What are you doing? But you don't
Yeah,
know what you don't know, right?
right.
And I will say, too, to that point of going, it's because of their experience. I also think it's not just from people's experience. I think you can be brand new and be just as successful. I think it really comes down to being consistent, like
Right.
just showing up. And I think
Yeah.
honestly, I would say that's probably how I ended up with the first deal.
Okay.
Um, First deal came out of people I know.
Yeah.
So it was an agent. Everybody was local. It was an
Oh,
agent
right.
that I knew. It was who also was in sub two. It was a couple of other sub two members that were involved. Decided to bring
Mhm.
in private money so that I knew the private money lender actually was my cousin. So that was one of his
Nice.
early deals, which was cool. And so yeah, it was all people that I knew or grew to know because of this.
Love it. Yeah.
So I think that was definitely like the very first one. And honestly, the one right after that came out of a meetup as well. So
Oh,
live
cool.
at a meetup, we're chit chatting, and the guy just decided, hey, if you're interested, I think I'd like to use you as a TC. And so yeah, I
Sweet.
think I think for me the live meetups have been really good. Also
Yeah.
because of where I'm at, I really had to learn to take advantage of those. Because to be honest, in the beginning, people were going, oh, you're in Phoenix. There's all these things. I mean, you've got to be doing so many deals and all this stuff. But
Yeah.
I still think there was a level of learning. Okay, where do I find those meetups? Where do I
Yeah.
find those people? Like the
Yeah.
people are here, but like where are they or not? For me in the beginning, it was seeing stuff after the fact. I'd catch it
Yeah.
on Instagram or whatever and realize, oh wait,
You're like,
that was
dang
here.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but you're kind of seeing it after, and so people are like,
Yeah.
"Oh, did you go to that?" And you're like, "No, I didn't. I didn't know
I
that was
didn't
happening."
know.
So I think
Yeah.
figuring out
Getting
for
connected.
people and resources to be able to look out for those things and to know, like, to be quite
Yeah.
honest with you, I'm one of those people, like, if I see there's a Pace meetup, I'm dropping everything and I'm going. Like,
Love
it
it.
was one
Yeah.
I'm watching him, I caught the back end of one of his YouTubes. I don't even know which series it was. And he's like, if you guys want to meet us, we're going for tacos in Tempe at 8 o'clock or whatever. And I was
How
just like,
fun. You're like, yeah.
that's 45 minutes away. It's 45 minutes till then. All right, let's go. Shut the laptop and like we're out. And so I think it's
Love
really
it.
cool that I'm here to do that. But I think to that point, even if you're not,
Yeah.
maybe you're in an area that's a little more remote or doesn't maybe have as much, I think thinking about who can you meet? Can you start your own meetup? Can you reach out to
Yeah.
people or even virtually do some things? And I think just talking to people however you can. I think of Brent Daniels because he's always like, just talk to people, and I think just talking to people and like I said, remaining consistent, whatever your best is that day, as long as you're trying and doing something. And some days that's going, I need a breather and
Yeah.
I need a moment away from this. And that's okay, readjusting. But yeah, I think those are really key starting off.
That's so cool. Okay, so when
Yeah.
you were at the meetup and you got your second one with a complete stranger
Yeah.
that you would have never met unless you were there,
Yeah.
did you have the mentality of, okay, I'm going to fake it till I make it? And so, like, were you talking to people as like, oh yeah, I'm a TC, or were you like honest and candid, like I'm really new, but I can't wait to learn and do this as I go.
I think I've gone through phases like anybody. You're trying to navigate how to be confident but still honest, and it's
Yeah, yeah,
as Ashley Mason says, sell the peanut butter sandwich without telling them how to make the peanut butter sandwich. You're trying to figure it out.
I like that.
No, I think I was actually very honest, and it was twofold because he knew that I was newer, and so it hit a point where he was willing to give me that opportunity.
Yeah,
Um, and then at the same point, I think I was pretty honest of I'm confident that I don't know everything, but I
yeah,
feel confident in who I have and the resources I have to
yes.
find the answers. And I even shared, like, I was always open of like, if you feel more comfortable with somebody else, or if I need to partner with somebody else to make
Hmm.
it, to make this work, I'm happy to do that. And so I think just being honestly
Yeah.
being open and honest, I think overall is best because not everybody is going to be well suited.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And within the community, I'm sure that, they all expect the TCs to be fairly new at it because the program's only been around for a year,
Yeah.
right?
I
So
don't
I would
think so. I
imagine
don't
that.
know. I'm like, people, I don't know what it is. Sometimes I think it's the opposite end where they just think we know everything. And you're like, man, it's like, well, we sure as heck try to know as much as we can, but we're still human
Right.
as well.
Right. No, that's cool. I'm glad you brought up that perspective because I was
Yeah.
just listening to Molly talk on that same topic that they they almost like almost like idolize, like, oh, the TC knows all the details and knows all the paperwork, and
Yeah.
that's awesome, that kind
Yes.
of confidence placed in us.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely. No, it's definitely a good thing that we get to help out in that way. We can be somewhat behind the scenes, but we still play a very large role.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, and so beyond meetups, so people should go to, are you saying like literally meetup.com, or what are some ideas for people no matter where they
Yeah.
live to get connected? Like, okay, it's day one, I'm certified. How do
Yeah.
I how do I find people?
So they've had some additional resources added recently too. I know in sub 2 they have an option where you can see all the meetups that
Oh,
are available across the state. So if you're in sub 2, you can check that out. Top tier just actually added a map that we can see it, which is really
oh,
exciting.
I didn't know
So
that. Oh, good.
so in
Okay.
top tier we have a map too in our coursework. But outside of that, so even if you're not in those communities, I think Facebook's always a really good one of checking out events there. Eventbrite seems to be really popular as far
Hmm.
as where people will post things, whether it's sub 2 or just in general.
Hmm.
Um, so I usually check those, but honestly, sometimes too, I think just even finding this is like my, I guess, hack
Hmm.
or way I've found them,
Yeah.
is sometimes even just figuring out like who's either at the meetups or hosting them, because sometimes like Pace, for example, is a bigger example, but
Yeah. Yeah.
I will check his stories because I know if there's going to be a pop up or something going on, he's going to post. And so I'll
Okay.
try to keep an eye out there for the links or updates, and then from there it might guide me. Okay, now I need to go to Eventbrite or whatnot, wherever.
That
But
makes
I think
sense.
Facebook, Eventbrite, I'm sure Meetup has a few. I've been to I think one or two off of there.
Hmm.
You could even check different like your local REI groups.
Hmm.
A lot of times they'll host stuff, or title companies. Like I said, the one I'm going to today, they're hosting a series. There's a couple events coming up. And I've been
Cool.
to one before, but something like that, usually there's quite a few options.
Love it. Thank you. You just
Yeah.
listed quite a few things, so that's
Yeah.
really, really
Like
helpful.
there's a lot.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. That's what people need to know. And have you found that? Well, have you done any deals outside of Pace's community? And then did you have to like educate them and like sell them on the fact that they needed a TC?
Uh, yes and no. So I
Okay.
have worked with people outside of the community, and no, they came to me. So
Cool. So they
yeah,
actually already knew that they needed one. Because I have it in my head that maybe outside of Pace's community where he's not,
I guess.
promoting. Mhm.
Well, I'm like, sorry, I was like thinking that through. Where I'm like, I guess they were
Yeah.
in like Pace's free group, so I
Oh,
guess
gotcha.
maybe not fully
Completely.
into the community as far as in like the mentorships and whatnot. But
Gotcha. Yeah.
and I know Pace doesn't want to call it a mentorship. He's not. They have not
Yeah.
paid into the community.
Yeah. Gotcha.
But yeah, I mean, I guess even still though, there's been varying, because like the person that came to me was familiar with creative or maybe
Mhm.
Pace Morby a bit, but they didn't have full access to those resources. So I
Yes.
think they
Okay.
kind of knew,
Okay.
and it probably heard from somebody or somewhere that they might have needed one. But some of them too, it's more just because I'd been talking to them already. I'd see them in the
Okay.
group, or we already kind of had a dialogue going, and then you know eventually they have a deal and they're like, hey, can you help me with this?
Got
So
it.
I think
Okay.
same thing, more just built off of the relationships, but I think it's possible for sure.
Okay, yeah, because I think that question sprang from picturing like just going to a REI group and
Yeah,
maybe a lot of people that aren't involved with Pace Morby, maybe they've
yeah,
never used a TC before or even realized the value of one. So I was just kind of curious if a person would have to like start
yeah,
from scratch and like really explain the value to the common investor that has never worked with one before.
yeah. So speaking more to that point, I would say then, do I think it's possible? Absolutely, and I definitely think it's worth considering, because I think we're very lucky to have such a community that we get to almost like live in
Yeah.
this bubble where we're like,
Yeah.
oh, you need a TC, and we have our own definitions of what that looks like and what we do
Yeah.
in the creative space. But I do think if you're going to go over into, say, like more of a traditional or real estate meetup or something like that, I think it's possible. I think you just have to approach it maybe a little differently. So it might, you know, start with the basics, build that relationship. Are they even open to creative? Do they even know what creative is? And then from there, I do think you are going to have to, at some point, maybe not right off the bat, learn that the hard way, because they're like, they have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, and they
Um,
will be learning it the hard way without a TC.
I do think it's possible. I think
Yeah.
sometimes, though, it might require a little more explanation, and just
Yeah.
even exploring the idea that, hey, if they are familiar with a traditional TC, what you are offering and studying and capable of doing is a different role, to where
Yeah.
sometimes it's almost like you don't even want to call it a TC,
Yeah.
because
I
what
was
they
wondering
have in
about
their
that.
mind of what that is not what we're, it's kind of like, we think we're offering this. You're selling the
Yeah.
hamburger and they're over here expecting a hot dog. It's not the same,
Right. Right.
like,
Same title, but
both
different
great,
job.
they're just different,
Yeah.
and so I think
Yeah.
it's definitely possible. I think it's gonna be a little different method though of going about it.
Yeah. Great analogy. I guess a little deeper into that. Let's pretend that
Sure.
we are talking like somebody in our audience today is just an investor or a real estate person, but they don't,
Yeah.
or maybe they have the hot dog in their mind of what a TC is.
Right.
Could you explain what the differences are to that person versus a traditional TC at a traditional real estate office versus our training?
Yeah. Yeah. So with the traditional TCs, and I had to learn this, like I said, I'm like, I didn't come with this background. So coming
Right.
into it, I was like, oh, I'm a TC, and then you start learning and it's like, oh, well, wait, I don't do that. Hold on a second. Let me figure this
Yeah.
out. So what I
Yeah.
have come to learn is that in traditional real estate, your TC is potentially also a licensed agent, or is working under the agent or brokerage. And
Okay.
a lot of times when they say they're handling the paperwork, they are actually potentially filling out contracts or doing more admin work
Okay.
on that front. And they are potentially connecting with title or different parties. Um, but it is a little more, I think, what people think of when they're going, oh, you just do paperwork, filling stuff out, sending it back and forth, which there's nothing wrong with that. By the way,
Yeah.
traditional TCs, appreciate you.
Right.
There's
Right.
nothing
Yeah.
wrong with that.
It's an important job.
I think it's a little more straightforward though, right?
Mhm.
You get the thing and then you pass it on and it's done.
Mhm.
With creative, it's a little bit different. So I like to explain ourselves as, and this might come from my background of events, but I like to say we're like the event planner or coordinator for the deal. So
Ah.
we're coming in and we're going to have a better understanding of things over in this creative world. So it's a
Okay.
little bit different, a little more convoluted usually, generally more parties involved. So instead of in a traditional side, you're usually seeing kind of the buyer, seller, maybe one or two agents, and that's about it. They might
Mhm.
be getting a loan, but it's very straightforward. And some of the deals we're doing, not only is the strategy unique, but the people involved is unique, because
Hmm.
you could have maybe no agents, but there might be multiple wholesalers. There might be a private money lender. There could be, now we're taking over not only mortgage payments, but they have solar that we want to take over as well. So we are able to facilitate that process and or be the event coordinators. And I like to say, instead of
Yeah.
coordinating your wedding day, we're setting up deal day. And so we have the knowledge to facilitate in that we're not necessarily filling out the contracts. I might not be your photographer or the caterer, but I'm going to know those people, understand their roles, and be able to handle the fires as they show up, if you will, to kind of guide you through that. And whether it's the camera guy's freaking out, I know where you're supposed to be, and we can actually explain to the bride what's happening right now. And
Love
sometimes that
that.
takes a different um, style of communication to do so. Because, for example, the
Yeah.
way investors are going to speak versus an agent versus title, there are going to be some nuances. And I think us coming from a place that we're studying this and trying to understand it, and generally we tend to lean towards being better communicators. We enjoy
Mhm.
it. We enjoy
Yeah.
that side. So I think we're able to help kind of get everybody on the same page and help push things forward.
Yeah, yeah, because I would imagine in a lot of these creative finance deals, they have the bright idea of like what they want, but it's probably very vague
Yeah.
until they bring in a top tier certified transaction
Yeah.
coordinator, and then, like you said, you're the specialist of the wedding planner, or, the
Yeah.
event, and so you're like, okay, so here's if this is what you're trying to do, then you're going to need boom, 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 and we have all the
Yeah.
checklists, and we just educate them and
Yeah.
lead the show at that
It's
point.
like going from planning like a birthday party at your house to wanting to set up a full concert. Okay,
Yeah.
well that's going to be a bigger production, and we might have to kind of get some more things in a row and get our ducks in a row. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think
Right.
it is a different role, and I think that's where we become valuable. But I also think that that's where, depending on where people are coming from or their
Mhm.
understandings, sometimes that's why I'm like, you have to kind of watch how you express it to people, because they
Yeah.
may not be ready to understand that yet. They
Yeah,
may
yeah.
not be in a place that they're getting where they've only known this one lane. So sometimes it's really hard to understand if you're
What you
just
don't know.
filling this out, why am I paying this? And what are you following? And what do you mean you're doing? And especially if maybe they haven't done any creative transactions either, they're
Mhm.
kind of going, okay, you brought in an extra person. I don't really understand. But I think the more
Yeah.
people get involved in it,
Yeah.
that's where people become aware of our value.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes too, understanding that, like, in my opinion, it's not our job to convince them why you need us. That might be an unpopular opinion, but I think I say that to say we can be absolutely very, very useful,
Mhm.
extremely valuable, and we have a lot of resources and knowledge. But depending on where you're at,
Mhm.
either what you're working on may not be in alignment with this, or you may not just be ready to understand it. And that's okay. Because once you get into it, you might be going, oh my gosh, my head is spinning. I got this sub two deal and I thought it was going to be fine. And I did, I'm
Yeah.
rolling it by myself and they're asking me all these questions and we don't
Yeah.
even, what do you mean I need a mortgage login? Who gets that? Where does it come from? And they start to have all
Yeah.
these questions. And I feel like sometimes even those moments are where we can go through it and be like, okay, this is where we can help. We're a team. We got you.
Yeah. Oh, such a good explanation.
Oh,
Thank
thank you.
you. Yeah. So, do you find that fairly frequently, that somebody has gotten themselves into the weeds and they're like, oh, I'm in over my head. Save me, and I'm in the middle of this transaction. Or do you
Yeah.
guys do TCs do that? Do they come in and save a person and get it all organized, or do they only come in at the very beginning?
I'm going to say be nice to your TCs. I would not say, if you can avoid it, start early. Just
Yeah.
like we're doing here, you start talking to people. And I know there's also a lot of people that do this and are very good at starting to try to figure out, okay, I know I might need a private money lender eventually. Let me start talking to some people. Oh, I might need a TC, and
Yes.
start, because then you can really find somebody who's a good fit for you.
Yeah.
Because not only do they need to be a good fit personality wise, but their business. You're still running a business. And
Yeah.
so everyone might have a little bit different way of doing that. And so it's not, there is no, I feel like people kind of want a black and white, this
Yeah.
is how it's done. And it's just not, because person to person, state to state, deal to deal, it can vary. So be nice to your TCs. Don't necessarily, I'm not going to say bring them all your chaos, and knowing you could have used them 2 weeks ago and now you're just calling me today. But
Right.
do I think there's times that we can help through that? Absolutely. I
Yeah.
definitely think that there's moments where maybe they didn't realize they needed it. Maybe they don't even realize how chaotic it is. They just bring it to you and they're like, hey, we got this thing. We're supposed to close in 2 weeks. Here's where we're at. Can you help me? And they think they're good. And then as you start to ask questions, we kind of realize the extent of everything that's needed. And
Yeah.
so, are there times we're still able to get it to close and just really work our butts off and get it there? Yes. Is it a
Yeah.
guarantee? No. I think there's some things that we just got to be real. Some stuff's out of our control,
Yeah.
but we're going to do everything we can to help you understand and to figure it out. And if nothing else, I'd always try to look at it same with our own deals, right? Of
Mhm.
even if it didn't go through, sometimes I think it's actually, and it might not feel like it in the moment. Obviously, we want to get as many deals through as we can. But if it fell through, why did it fall through?
Yeah.
Now we know for next time. Or did it fall through because we realized there was 3 extra liens nobody knew about? Or something like that, that, hey, at least you didn't go forward with that. We were able
Yeah.
to actually discover it before it was closed and done, and you go, "Oh, shoot. What do you mean check title?" I mean,
Yeah.
so I think, is it possible? Yeah, depending on what it is, absolutely. And I think it's worth exploring if nothing else, and just inquiring and going, "Hey, here's where I'm at," or "Here's what I think I need," or "I'm not sure what I need. Do you know
Mhm.
anything about this?" And I think we can all, it's a team effort. We can all figure it out in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, yeah. I love what you just said about a team effort too, because they say,
Oh,
if you want to be successful entrepreneur, or anybody successful in life, really, it's about who you surround yourself with. And
oh,
so, like you
absolutely.
say, even if you're a brand new investor or a wholesaler,
Yeah,
wanting to build upon, delve into other types of investments, like she was saying,
yeah,
get your gator or your private money lender lined out and get a
yeah,
TC, and build your team around you
yes.
so that what's that quote, success is when preparation meets opportunity, something like
Yes.
that.
Oh, that's
So
excellent.
prepare your team, have it ready so that you will be successful when you
Yeah,
encounter these, and that you can jump on them and not have to scramble trying to build your team as you go.
absolutely.
And then another thing I know Pace talks about a lot is the opportunity cost.
Mhm.
Um, you might think you're doing just fine as an investor and you haven't needed a TC yet, but
Mhm.
what if you could 10x your
Yeah.
ability, because you're not having to spend time doing those things, but you can focus on spending time doing the things that make you the most money,
Yes,
finding more opportunities.
absolutely. No, I think that's huge. And I think that's why I say, because I'm like, I know Chelsea got me for this one too, where I'm like, oh, you don't always need a TC. And she was like, what in the world? Looked at me cross eyed of like, you tell people what? But I think that's the back end of it though, is like, that is where we can be really helpful. And that's just our role. But it's not to say like, you can delegate numerous things. If it's
Mhm.
not the best use of your time, energy, and you know, the time money exchange that you could have, and you're not
Yeah,
maximizing that, because you hire an assistant, because it's not just a TC. We just happen to be in a TC role where we're like, hey, this is something I can help offload. I can
yeah,
take this off your plate so that even though maybe you can do it, like you said, if this, what are you making elsewhere? Because you could go chase that other $30,000 assignment fee instead of doing this.
yeah.
And then because of that, can we help you to do 10 or 20 deals a month instead of the 4 or 5 you're doing right now? That
Right,
might be
right.
more appealing. When
And
you're first starting off, if you're doing 1 or 2, you might want to just get your hands on a few deals, or funds might be a little tighter, which we totally understand. Everybody's had to start somewhere, but I think
yeah,
those are the ranges where it's like, yeah, we can actually all help each other to level up. We can take care of
yeah,
this so you can go do what you love instead of sitting here just banging your head against the wall because you're like, oh my god, I have to review another paper or I gotta call someone
yeah.
again. Please don't make me do it.
Exactly. And different personality types, you're good at that.
Yeah,
I'm good at this. So, leverage
exactly.
each other's talents, natural talents, and
Absolutely.
don't be tripping over pennies getting to dollars.
Yes. Oh my goodness. You have the best quotes. I love it.
Sometimes I usually get them wrong, honestly. People get the
That's okay.
gist.
I'm not as
Um,
familiar with them enough, so they sound good to me.
I love it. Oh, no, I think you did a great
Oh,
job
thank you.
explaining, what it is, what is a TC, and why an investor maybe would want to consider getting one on
Yeah.
board as soon as possible. What about, I suppose it depends on how many deals they have going. Do you know investors that have more than one TC?
I think it's possible. I think sometimes I could see a few different scenarios that you would do that. I think if
Mm-hmm.
they're just doing enough volume, they
Mm-hmm.
might start to even build out their own TC team. Like I know locally here, the Bash Bros, they do enough volume that they quite frequently use Perla, who's in top tier as well. But
Mm-hmm.
they've started building out a whole company, like a TC company and team
Oh,
for that,
wow. Cool.
because they're just doing enough. So I think that that's an option. I also think potentially, depending on your deal type, you might end up at a point where maybe you use Sarah for all of your sub twos and you're coming to me for all the seller finance or something like that. I think maybe deal
Yeah.
type, if you have somebody, one that comes to mind too is like lending deals. We know people that like all they focus on is lending. Maybe you have your TC for that and you have your TC for something else. So, I mean, I think that would be
Yeah.
totally up to the investor and what they're working on and what they're looking for, because
Yeah.
some don't mind going to a few. Some just want, like, no, I want my one person. I don't want to
Mm-hmm.
have to keep talking to people. I just want to
Yeah.
pass it off and like we got our system rolling and we know how it works. So
Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah.
think I think that's going to kind of be up to them and their business setup and what they're looking for.
Yeah, no, and in explaining that, you also put a new thought in my head of, there's probably TCs out there that prefer certain types of deals, and they end up specializing themselves
Yeah.
in that specific type of deal and like
Yeah.
niching down.
Absolutely. Yeah. So some TCs are going to niche down. Some of them, you know, have built out their own team to be able to have, a team where it's we do everything as the company, but
Hmm.
there's a specific team member per deal type.
Individuals.
Some
Yeah,
do a little bit of everything, so I think it's just a mix. Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, thank you. So, can you think of anything that we haven't talked about that maybe you had in the back of your mind that you did want to talk about or that we should touch on?
Ooh. Nothing off the top of my head. No. I'm like,
Okay.
I'd love to hear how you found top tier and now you've started this channel and are just getting in there. I applaud you for that. It's
I
amazing.
love it. Okay. Turning the
Right?
camera around on
Return the
me now.
switch.
Yeah, no, I've been intrigued with real estate for far too long, in the sense that I was chicken. I didn't jump in. I don't have a second income to back me up, and it just seemed scary.
Yeah.
And I was also just kept busy with a full-time corporate job. And so about a year and a half ago, I started telling myself, you know what, stop with the fear. Like, what's the worst that can happen, really? At the end of the day, if you lose some money, it's just money. Like, stop with the fear. And so I started really asking myself, what do I want? What do I want? And part of that, spurred me to move to Florida and start a whole new life down here. But then part of it was leaving the corporate job. I want more freedom. I want flexibility of my time. I want to be able to work from anywhere. That's something, maybe you could speak to a little bit later too, is, I'm envisioning for myself, maybe during the hot Florida summer months, maybe I fly to Portugal and Italy and Spain and spend the summer there instead.
Oh,
Um,
cool. I
you
love
know,
that.
every year. And this is something that conceptually I should be able to do from anywhere.
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
so that was super exciting for me. But how I've been following Pace Morby's YouTube channel for a long time,
Okay.
and bigger pockets and all that stuff, and just kind of like sitting on the sidelines and like dreaming. But then when I left my corporate job, I'm like, okay, I need to actually do, and what do I love? And I had started a couple different things, but I realized I need to follow the energy. And for me, the energy was definitely real estate. I get excited talking about it. It's fun.
Yes.
Um, and then following the energy, I love doing interviews. And so um, I started realizing, hey, this goes hand in hand. I can maybe
Yeah.
kind of like lift other people up above my shoulders. Once my platform gets big enough, give them an opportunity to be known and for people to reach out to them. And so, like, on that note, if anybody would love to work with Evita, we will definitely be sharing her contact information. Um,
Absolutely.
and so it's just a win-win. Following the energy, doing what you find interesting, and then when you're in that state, you're like high vibration and in high flow state, if that makes sense. And you're going to
Yes.
automatically meet the people that resonate with you, um, and that's basically what happened. I think I just allowed myself to follow that, and here I am now making new friends, meeting you, and other people that have the same passions and interests.
How incredible. Oh my goodness. I know you weren't anticipating it, but thank you
No.
for sharing. I feel like that is so true of just pushing past fear. And to me, it sounds like you're listening to yourself and you're figuring out what's in alignment, what fuels you, what gives you energy, not sucks it dry, because I think too
Yes.
many times we do things because we think we're supposed to, or we're just not sure. And I think stepping into this space, and I kind of did the same thing as you, a little different version, but
Yeah.
it's the same thing where you're just going like, what am I waiting for?
Yeah.
Like, what worst case scenario, you go back and get another job, like if it's really that awful. But it's just
Yeah.
finding things that fuel you, whether it's the people or the topic, or and being able to wake up every day and just enjoy what we're doing. Like, it is
Yes.
so cool that they say, like, what is it, the meeting between your passion, it's like something about purpose, passion, and if you can make an income with it, like that
Ikigai.
intersection
Your
is,
Ikigai point.
yes, it's like, and I love that you can definitely tell this energizes you, and I'm so glad that you took that leap and
Thank
and joined
you.
us, because this is amazing, and we're happy to follow you with this. I think this is incredible.
Thank you. Yeah, I have to admit, like, the logic was there as far as like, okay, I think I can do this work. Well, I know I can.
Mhm.
It's right up my alley with my natural skill set.
Yeah.
Um, and the interest in real estate. But then what really sealed the deal for me was when I had called Tiffany Chow before signing up to be actually
Oh,
before pulling out my
wonderful.
credit card. And she was just telling me about the community and how, it's such a special group of
It really
people,
is.
and it's still in its infancy. So the fact that the program's only been around a year and there's only approximately 600 TCs, and we're kind of all of the same kind of mind, and we want the same
Mhm.
things, and we have this similar talents, and that it's so
Yeah.
helpful. Like everyone just wants to help one another.
Everybody
Um,
is so
yeah,
nice.
yeah,
So nice. It is
yeah.
insane. You keep waiting for like the group to, like, what am I missing? But it's just not. I mean, I don't even have to think that with this group, but
That's
it's
so
incredible.
cool.
I don't feel like there's a lot of places you can find with this many people that, to your point, are just
Yeah,
so eager to help, so willing to uplift one another and support each other, and just everyone is, I feel like, it's aside from just studying, like it's beyond a career. It's the fact that everybody's in this like personal growth journey and focused on
yes,
mindset and focused on collaboration and just all these bigger ideas of
hmm,
community that I think is what really is like what keeps us here, and wanting to pass it on and help somebody else.
yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, and for all those, like you mentioned earlier, mothers and wives and people that
Yeah,
have kids, like Tiffany had mentioned, I think during our interview, like you'll be on the Zoom meeting and there'll be moms holding their babies, or their
it's
their
so
kids. I mean, how cool is that? Like you can't
Yeah,
can't
kids
do
are
that in the
running in and
corporate world.
out, it's, yes, it lends itself very well to that, and I think it's really cool that there's a space that wherever you're at, whether it's kids running in and out, or you're
Yeah.
on your drive somewhere and you've got one of the Zooms on, I mean, whatever it is, it's really cool that you can make it happen.
Yeah, and then I think for me personally, also, I was listening to a webinar before I signed up with. I think it was Molly that had mentioned
Okay.
that she loves to sit outside and ground herself with her bare feet in the grass. And I'm like, oh, that's me, that's me. I do that
Yeah.
all the time, um,
Yes.
while she's watching her horses. And I'm like, oh, that's me, that's me. you know,
That sounds amazing. Take me there.
Yes, and to be around people like that, that have the same interests and
Yeah.
same passions and, care about health, and I just, having come fresh from the corporate world, don't get
Yeah.
me wrong, I have some really close friends at the company where I just left, but
Likewise.
there was also a lot of a lot of the vibe of the company not caring about its people anymore and not being flexible with their work schedules for the moms that had kids in school and daycare and bus routes and time frames and just on and then also the scarcity mentality. And this group is not like that. This group is like, you know what, there's plenty of deals to go around. We
Yeah.
can help each other, and we have an abundance mentality.
Yeah, absolutely.
The more TCs that become TCs, the better, because that means that they're going to be able to facilitate even more deals, and it's just going to feed the engine, right? Or maybe
Absolutely.
we're like the oil in the engine. The engine's going to seize up if you don't have a TC. You need the oil.
I think it's totally an abundance mentality. And to your point too, I also think through these journeys, for someone who maybe is more of in a scarcity mindset, or you're coming off of maybe a career or something that's kind of got you in that place and you're going into it like, are you sure? How's this going to work?
Yeah.
I think there's plenty of deals, there's plenty of strategies that will facilitate our role, I think, for quite a while. And I also think within that, through this journey, people are going to pivot. So it's not to say everybody who comes in as a TC, like we're just, we are going to absolutely keep growing. Don't get me wrong. Like it's going to keep growing. This stuff is awesome. But I also think like people are going to pivot. Some people join and they figure out, I thought I was a TC, but maybe I'm not, or they started to learn for their own deals and then now they've added someone else to do it, or they switched over to buy businesses, or now they want to do they discovered these other things that they can use their TC experience. But I think there's always going to be plenty, and I think that's just the abundance mindset too, where like whether it's us as TCs or worried about files or teams. I know people talk about that a lot, of rolling solo or joining a team. Like the more people there are of us in this means the more experience we're gathering.
Yeah.
The bigger they grow, the more opportunities there are for other teams that you could join or collaborate with. And so I really do think there is just an overwhelming amount of opportunity in this realm, in this community, whatever you want to call it. I know for me, at least joining, I've said it numerous times out loud to people where I'm just like, I don't see a way this doesn't work out. I just truly don't. It might not work out how I thought it would, but it's going to work out 100%.
Yeah. Having that faith. That's so cool. And then I was also thinking, like, during an election year, oftentimes people are worried about the economy and, oh, is there enough, with the prices being this high and interest rates and this and that, maybe it's going to slow down. Well, that's another advantage of getting into this world. Maybe traditional real estate could slow down because people couldn't, afford to buy whatever. But in the creative financing world, that's exactly like when the economy's being squished, that's exactly when you want to turn to creative financing and still
another
can make
tool in your tool belt.
Yes, exactly. Well said. Well, I just kind of like, I don't know, I just got excited listening to you. So
no, thank you. This is awesome. Like you have the best questions. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much. But at this point, I'm not coming up with anything new to really delve into. So unless you have anything else to add, maybe we stop here and do another interview like in 6 months or a year from now.
Yeah, absolutely. It might have to be sooner than that. Things change a lot every day.
I love that. That sounds good. I'm game.
Yes,
You're so fun to talk to.
No, I'm happy to meet you. I'm so glad that you brought me on and we were able to discuss some of these things. Of course, if anybody ever needs help, whether it's creative or at this point, I'm also just like to support people that are newer in this or newer to entrepreneurship. We're launching a entrepreneurial mindset course this week that I'm really excited about.
Tell more, and also tell people how they can contact you.
Yeah, so I do have my handle on here, Investing with Evita. That's how you can find me on Instagram. You could also look me up on Facebook as well. But kind of spurred from this, so me and a couple of the other girls, I found through this space, I went to a small business strategic planning class earlier this year, and they are absolutely awesome. I learned so much, and a lot of it stemmed from not just being a new TC, but being a newer entrepreneur and just kind of the inner self struggles you go through with that, of just the emotions and the roller coaster that comes with, figuring out, who am I? What is my
Yeah.
business? And what are my core values? And, who do I want to work with? Or why is this not sitting well with me? And those types of things. And so through it, bottom line, over the last several months, we decided to come together and do a course specific for TCs. So it'll be for 4 weeks, and we're
Cool.
going to do another one in November. You can find
Yay.
the info on my bio and Instagram, or just reach out to me. But we're really excited. We've learned so much with this, and we've been able to curate this with Kaylee Williams got added to this as well, and she has an extensive background facilitating and operational development. So not just necessarily your systems and processes, but focusing more on like regulating yourself, understanding yourself, and understanding yourself in business, and how as entrepreneurs we are the business. So it's a
Yeah.
little different than what we're used to, of trying to separate things and understand that. And so yeah, we're really excited about it. And
That's
if
so
you're a
cool.
TC, I host every Friday TC. We call it study hall, but we literally just get together kind of like this. And if you've got questions, or you just want to meet some people, or need a little bit of support, we just hang out. And it's for 1 hour every Friday. You're welcome to join that as well.
Nice. And is the information for that specific one also
That
on your
one,
Instagram?
that one is going to be on Facebook. So right
Okay.
now we have it just for top tier. But of course, if we end up with enough people interested, I can always add something else or open
Yeah.
it up.
Well, and your mindset course is
Yeah.
so perfect because that's exactly what I'm envisioning that people would want is, you
Yeah.
take the TC course, you get the nuts and bolts, you get the
Yeah.
structure, and it's kind of like a lot out here, but what about
Yeah.
internal,
Exactly. And I
setting
do want
yourself
to be
up?
clear too, like, it is separate from top tier, so I don't want to make any
Yeah.
associations completely separate. This is just something we went out on our own,
Yeah.
decided to do as TCs, so
Right.
totally separate
It's
from
more
top
like the self-development
tier.
angle
Yes.
of being an entrepreneur, and specifically being an entrepreneur in the TC world.
Yes. We wanted to cater to
Yeah.
TCs first, take care of our people, and then
Yes.
we do have bigger goals of opening it up to just entrepreneurs in general, and we've got a few ideas of how we can
Yeah.
phase into some different things that we're seeing or experiencing as well. So I'm excited to see how it develops too.
That's amazing. Okay, so
Yeah.
your next opening, you said, is when? October?
So yeah, we actually start one this Friday. So we're
Ooh.
starting one this Friday. So if you guys want, you can definitely sign up quick. But otherwise,
Okay.
we'll have another one for the following month as well.
Oh, that's so cool. I'm so
Yeah,
happy to hear that you're doing that
thank
because I think
you.
it's really needed. It's gonna go
Thank
hand in
you.
hand exactly to help people be successful out of the
Yes,
gates sooner than they would have been on their own.
absolutely. That's our hope. I'm like, we just want to pay it forward.
Love that. Oh, that's so cool, Evita.
Awesome.
Well, beautiful. So thank you so much for sharing that, and thank you for being my guest today. And cannot wait to stay in contact with you and do this again.
Yes, likewise. Thank you so much for having me. It was absolutely a blast chatting with you. So I'm looking forward to the follow up.
All right. Have a good one.
Thanks.